Major news coming out of the Justice Department, which has been under this sustained pressure to be more aggressive in that open probe into the insurrection. And to see why this news is significant, it is worth remembering something right off the top here. How a lot of credible people, from legal experts to the House investigators themselves, have said it's imperative that the DOJ bear down on any law-breaking or subpoena-defying by people linked to the events of January 6th.
Will the Department of Justice be quick and aggressive?
How much pressure is Garland going to be under then from liberals, from Democrats?
He's going to be under a lot of pressure.
This committee is doing its job. The Department of Justice needs to do theirs.
What's the holdup at the Department of Justice?
The Department of Justice has a duty to act on this referral and others we have sent.
So many different people have been saying exactly that. And as you saw, those voices include just some of the top committee members we had time to show you. Schiff and Lofgren bluntly pressing the DOJ to pick up where parts of the House probe have really left off because multiple Trump aides defied House subpoenas and sometimes would then go out and publicly tout their own defiance. That's a contrast to how the vast majority of witnesses, including other Trump aides and family members, have cooperated with the House probe. And that brings us to the standoff animating tonight's news. Remember the legal scorecard. You had Trump aides who defied Congress, and they were dealt with a rare and grave measure in return, contempt, as you see here. That's 4 aides and counting. The DOJ has acted on one of those, indicting Steve Bannon, and he awaits trial. Those other 3 were just out there. Now, there was pressure from that indictment. Maybe the DOJ thought indicting one would send a message and others would cooperate. Maybe they don't want to go and just indict everyone right in a row immediately. But then nothing else over the months had been publicly confirmed out of the Justice Department about any of this until now. The news now is the DOJ using the pressure of an actual criminal probe against another White House veteran on the 4 I showed you there, this time against Trump aide Peter Navarro, who spoke publicly about attempts to overthrow the election and defied House requests to then testify about that very same topic. And now the FBI has come to his door and hit him with a new criminal grand jury subpoena, he says. And that bears down on his refusal to cooperate with the House subpoenas that have just been sitting there. And so this is the first update since Bannon, with Navarro facing now not a trial yet, but a criminal subpoena, which means the DOJ is involved and may indict him for his defiance. It's all building now as the DOJ is demanding he separately face a grand jury as soon as Thursday and provide prosecutors with those records about 1/6. So that's a big deal. This is getting tougher on Bannon and Navarro. And we do not know if others have also been subpoenaed like this, if those calls for the DOJ to do more were potentially coming as it was already confidentially doing more. We do know that a federal grand jury was in place and had subpoenaed some people in Trump's orbit. The Washington Post reported on that in March. Now, why is this specific news coming out now? Sometimes you get a scoop, a new development, you wonder, well, why are we hearing this? Or what are the sources? And with a grand jury, you may remember from the Mueller probe, the sources are often confidential because the process is supposed to be. But I can actually tell you exactly why this is happening right now tonight. It's because of Navarro, who has filed his own new separate civil lawsuit today tackling some of these issues. And in it, he discloses this new subpoena while arguing that he believes he should have executive privilege. He also likens cooperation with the government to betrayal. And what about those majority of Trump witnesses who did testify, including Trump's children? Well, he actually says that was cowardly of them. Now, let me tell you, Navarro has the right to challenge this in court. It's in court where his claims can be rejected or accepted. He has the right to defend himself. And we try to report fairly and accurately on all of these cases for you. I can tell you accurately, it's also a fact that Navarro is representing himself. He doesn't have some fancy MAGA-aligned lawyer. And I can tell you, he does not have a formal or written assertion of privilege from Trump, which is what he keeps invoking as the reason he can't talk to the government. Those two facts do raise some questions about how much this fits into other Trump strategies and how much this is a person who publicly advocated overthrowing the election who may be just going rogue. Now, legally, Filing this kind of civil suit does not usually impact an open criminal probe, which is what Navarro apparently faces. And then there's one other legal and logical tension in this case. It's something the House actually cited in its contempt vote and something we've reported on here in our work. Because the House also cited Navarro's interviews, including on this program, for what he says he did. And that brings us to something that is really curious about all this, something that I don't think anyone would have predicted a couple of years ago or on the day of the 6th, which is that you have someone who worked for Trump up until the end of his tenure, who was letting people into the White House, who was pushing to overthrow the election, who's claiming now that he's doing all of this big legal fight with real stakes, because he must avoid discussing a supposedly privileged plan to overthrow an election, a supposedly privileged plan which Navarro has talked about over and over and over, telling us and you and the world about how they were trying to overthrow the election.
We had over 100 congressmen and senators on Capitol Hill ready to implement the sweep. We were going to challenge the results of the election in the 6 battleground states.
Do you realize you are describing a coup?
No.
Why risk a legal battle or going to jail to refuse to discuss them with the committee under oath?
The president has invoked executive privilege. It's not my privilege to waive.
Do you understand that you've already waived it by discussing it? They want under oath. And number two, finally, Peter, are you prepared to risk indictment for defying the subpoena?
I'll stand tall on this.
If by tall he means continuing to defy the House subpoena, well, that's what he did. And that alone has not worked out well for some of these Trump veterans, as we show and track on the scorecard. But continuing to stand tall against federal prosecutors is even harder. They have much stronger tools than Congress, and their authority does not change one iota with any election. And that is where Navarro is standing now.